The rain hammered against the windows of my tiny cabin, mirroring the relentless static bleeding from the ham radio. I adjusted the gain, trying to filter out the noise, but it only intensified, a layered cacophony of distorted voices repeating the word harvest. It wasn't random. There was an undeniable pattern, a rhythmic pulse beneath the chaos. My fingers tightened on the knob, a growing sense of dread settling over me. This wasn't interference. This was deliberate. I checked the signal strength, surprisingly strong for this remote location, and originating from somewhere within Blackwood Orchard, about 10 miles to the west. The orchard had been abandoned for decades after a series of mysterious disappearances. Stories whispered of strange rituals and unpaid debts. I felt an irrational pull, a compulsion to investigate. I'd rationalized it as simple exploration, but tonight, it felt less like a hobby and more like a descent. The drive to Blackwood was unsettling. The rain intensified, blurring the already indistinct road. The trees on either side seemed to press in, their branches skeletal against the bruised sky. As I neared the orchard gates, rusted and hanging askew, the radio static grew almost unbearable, punctuated by brief, chilling phrases. Bring the fruit. Complete the cycle. I parked my truck a safe distance away, pulling out a flashlight. The orchard was eerily silent. Rows of ancient apple trees stretched before me, their branches laden with bruised and blackened fruit. A harvest long since abandoned but strangely preserved, as if waiting. I felt watched, a prickling on the back of my neck that had nothing to do with the rain or the cold. I took a tentative step into the orchard, raising the radio cautiously. I followed the strongest signal, navigating through the tangled branches until I reached the center of the orchard, a clearing dominated by an enormous, ancient apple tree. Its bark was scarred and twisted, radiating an almost palpable sense of decay. That's where the radio was loudest, directly focused on this single tree. As I approached, I noticed something unsettling. Hanging from the branches weren't just apples. They were small, intricately crafted wooden figures, miniature people frozen in various poses, some holding tools, others simply standing silently. They were covered in a thick layer of dried fruit pulp, as if they'd been harvested. The radio voice was now clear and deliberate. The offering must be complete. Suddenly, the rhythmic pulse intensified to a deafening roar, and I saw a movement within the tree's hollow trunk, something shifting.
I stumbled back, dropping the radio. It skittered across the ground, momentarily silenced, then sputtered back to life with a chillingly familiar voice. You found us. A figure detached itself from within the tree, not human, but vaguely humanoid, constructed of twisted wood and dried fruit. Its eyes were dark hollows filled with static. It reached out a hand, its fingers composed of sharpened branches, and gestured towards me. The voice continued, laced with an unnerving calmness. The cycle requires sustenance. Your energy, your memories, will replenish the harvest. I tried to scream, but my throat seized up, paralyzed by terror. A strange sense of detachment washed over me, as if I was observing myself from a distance.
The wooden figure moved with unnatural speed, reaching for me. I reacted instinctively, swinging my flashlight like a weapon. It deflected the beam harmlessly, and as it touched my arm, a searing pain shot through me. Not physical, but something deeper, a draining of something essential. Fragments of memories, faces, moments, vanished into the air like smoke. The static on the radio swelled to a deafening crescendo. More figures emerged from the tree, surrounding me in a silent, menacing circle. They weren't attacking, exactly. They were simply consuming. I realized with horrifying clarity that my thoughts, my emotions, my very existence was fuel for this bizarre harvest. I turned and ran, blindly crashing through the apple trees. The figures pursued me relentlessly, their movements silent and unnervingly precise. The radio continued to broadcast, a constant stream of distorted voices urging me onward, accelerating the feeling that my own identity was dissolving. I could feel myself becoming less. The rain intensified, washing away what remained of my memories, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. Finally, collapsing near my truck, I fumbled for the keys, desperate to escape this desolate place. I managed to start the truck and sped away from Blackwood Orchard, glancing in my rearview mirror. The orchard was silent again, unnaturally so. As I drove, the radio sputtered back to life with a single, clear voice, "Harvest complete." Then, it cut out entirely. I pulled over to the side of the road, shaken and disoriented. Examining myself in the truck's reflection, I noticed something profoundly disturbing. My eyes were different. They weren't my eyes. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I wasn't just a survivor. I was part of the harvest now. I looked down at my hands and saw that they were no longer flesh and blood, but formed from intricately carved wood, layered with dried fruit pulp. The voice returned, emanating not from the radio, but directly into my mind. "You are perfect." Slowly, I raised my hand to touch my face, revealing a perfectly crafted wooden mask where my nose and mouth once were. The final twist wasn't horror. It was something far more insidious. Immortality, achieved through assimilation, becoming one with the orchard's unending cycle of consumption. And then, another figure emerged from the trees, holding a gleaming apple.